The London congestion charge, you and I know that it's wrong. Principally, it goes against European law. European law clearly states that there should not be an internal market. There is an internal market within this wider European Union. It doesn't refer not just to the borders of countries, but also within any particular country in Europe. Therefore, the congestion charge, by virtue of its introduction, imposition, and the way it operates, breaches European Union law, rules and regulations. By imposing a congestion charge, by imposing a circle around a strategic area of London, constitutes a breach, because it is pretty obvious that all the councils surrounding or encompassing the congestion charge are in cahoots with its setup. TfL is the biggest one, which to me is a private organization with the backing of the government, making millions each year by the introduction of the congestion charge. You know and I know that it's wrong. Now, the embassies are refusing to pay the congestion charge because they say that they should not pay. And rightly so, I agree with them 100%. They should not pay, because the European Convention clearly states that no embassy, no legal country should pay a tax in another country or in a foreign country. This relates to any government in any country where the embassy has its own personal territory in that foreign country and has rights and duties, and one of them being that they are not obliged to pay. Now, you cannot blame the embassies for not paying, for refusing to pay, because the law states that they should not pay. Now, because the congestion charge was imposed on the people, it is clearly a tax. Now, the government and the authorities may well use other expressions to lighten the definition and interpretation of a tax by using the word charge. But charge is just a get-out clause. Charge is just a get-out clause. Get me out of jail card. How can you have charges and taxes which you enforce on people and you say they have to pay because it's the law? All countries are obliged to impose taxes. I agree with that. But charges, you cannot impose charges. You should not be able to impose charges. If it's a charge and it's backed by law, then it's a tax, fundamentally. Now, the reason why I agree with the embassies that they should not pay is because it's a tax and they should not pay. Now, if it's not a tax, then the people should not pay and should rebel, because the government therefore has imposed a rule on the people. They call it a service. Now, nowhere in this world can you impose a service on a free man unless that man agrees to you offering him that service. So by way of their expression and definition of a service is a load of crap. Take that from me. European law, contract law, states that for there to be a contract, there must be agreement between two or more parties. The UK government knows that, TfL knows that, all the lawyers in the country knows that, but they all keep quiet because the truth hurts. If the congestion charge is a service, the people should not pay. And they say it's a service, and therefore we should not pay. If it's a tax, then the embassies should not pay, and the people must pay. Therefore, TfL and the government cannot have it both ways. You cannot bake the cake and eat the cake. You can't. This is supposed to be a democracy. It's not operating like one. It's operating like a dictatorship with the use of fancy laws, rules and regulations to expropriate money. Plain and simple. We all know that prudence is dead. Never again will that word be used by an MP or in the economic books. That's dead. It was simply a state of mind at the time to keep your books in order. Plain and simple. So getting back to the story of the congestion charge. Embassies pay if it's not a tax, and therefore we don't pay. People pay if it's a tax. If it's not a tax, we don't pay. You, TfL, and the government, you cannot force a service on the people. You cannot force a contract on someone else because you choose to do so for money. So, this is the reason why TfL is afraid to challenge the embassies in the courts. This is why they don't want to take it to the courts. They will moan and groan and say, oh, you should pay. But rightly so, they should not pay. And any embassy who pays, they are weak. They should not pay. Because if they pay, it means that the European the law, which I'll tell you in a second, which I've just forgotten, is absolutely useless. So, the Vienna Convention is absolutely useless. Right. Now, there are two problems on our hands. Either we accept it as a charge stroke tax, which it is, in which case the embassies do not pay, or we accept it as a service, which we shouldn't do, and not pay, but still pay if you want to pay, and not challenge them. Fundamentally, there is an issue here to be answered in the courts. The courts know that. The MPs know that. They're all keeping quiet because they know the truth. And the truth hurts. TfL, I challenge you to take the embassies to the courts and let the courts decide, because you will lose, hands down. The money which you're claiming, you are not entitled to because it's a tax.